Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Hi and welcome to It's Only a Game podcast. This is our playoffs preview special, so 2 voice notes from myself and Jimmy. So I'm going to go dive straight into the National League playoffs. Let's have a quick look at the lineup for that one. There you go. Yep, so we got Oldham against Halifax in the Eliminator A, you could call it, at Boundary Park, Wednesday the 14th of May. I'll go Oldham for that one. Just because I can see them beating Halifax. Unfortunately, don't mind Halifax, don't particularly want Oldham to do it, but I can see my gut's telling me Oldham. I know Jimmy talks about what does your gut think about with playoff games, but yeah, my gut is telling me Oldham for that one. Eliminator B, which is Rochdale up the Dale against Southend United. That's Eliminator B on Thursday, the 15th of May, my dad's birthday, which I mentioned in the last mini episode. I'm going to go Dale. I think it'd be a tight game. I think I'll go Dale 2-1, as Jimmy may mention later in this particular episode. Obviously, Southend have had their issues over the past few years. They look okay, or it sounds okay at the moment for them, and obviously they've made it to the playoffs. I think they'll bring a fair few fans with them. Obviously I know it's quite a drive Southend, but they will be up for it. Let's not say they won't be. Bloody hell, they will be. They'll be well up for it. But yeah, I think Dale will win that 2-1. My only concern with Dale at the moment is I think that was a fairly strong squad that we played on Bank Holiday Monday, and I don't know why. I would have rested. There was about 8 of them there that I wouldn't have played. I would have started Mitchell, and my anxiety now is that because he hasn't played Mitchell on Monday or didn't start him, I hope he doesn't start Mitchell against Southend, because you do need your best players to start first. That we've sort of realised recently, you do need your best players to be starting first, because if we're 2-0 down and then you're bringing your best players on, you've got a lot of work to be doing there. So I probably wouldn't have started the 8 good players or 9 good players that he did on Monday, but it is what it is. We weren't going to drop from 4th, so it's one of those things. But yeah, I think Dale will win that one. So there we go. The next part would be the semi-final number 1, which would be York City, who finished second against winners of Eliminator A. So really, I'm obviously going for Oldham. York against Oldham at York City. I call it Kit Kat Crescent. It's not there anymore, unfortunately. I think they're in the rugby ground, York. I'm going York. York will definitely beat Oldham. I can't see... I think it would be a bridge too far for Oldham trying to beat York City, who've been consistently very, very good all season. They've been top for quite a few weeks in our division, and then they just sort of fell slightly down to second place, which is unfortunate, really. As I mentioned in the last mini episode, top 3 spots in any other division gets you up pretty much, almost. Second place definitely does. So really, that is what you would call normally an automatic spot in League 2 and League 1 for sure. So it's a shame about York that they have to go through the playoffs, really. But obviously they've got the bye into the semi-final number 1. So yeah, York I think they'll definitely beat Oldham. Semi-final number 2, you've got Forest Green Rovers, who finished 3rd, against the winner of Eliminator B, which is what I've gone for Dale. So Forest Green Rovers against Rochdale, I think it'll be a tough game. Forest Green Rovers, they've been doing well as well. They've been consistently up there. It could be anything. See, the thing is with Dale, we could turn up. That's the thing with our recent form. We've hit decent form since the Spennymoor disaster result onwards. We've really kicked on. It is possible that we could get something, but my gut's telling me Forest Green for this one. We've got to tell me Forest Green, similar to York in some respects, that they have been a bit more consistent than Rochdale. Rochdale have had some weird patches this season where we got beat 4-0 and then we win 4-0 and things like that, and we've just got over the line the past 5-6 weeks, or whatever you want to call it, to get in the playoffs. And we've got a good, we've been undefeated, 1-4, turned a corner is what I mentioned there. So basically the final promotion final, you could call it, which is the winners of the semi-final. That's at Wembley Stadium, Sunday the 1st of June, 3 p.m. My gut's telling me it's York City and Forest Green. It's a shame that Rochdale don't get to this final, because what could be Ian Henderson's last game for Dale could be at Wembley, which would be incredible. If Ian Henderson could take up Rochdale up in his final game at Wembley, that would be good, but I'm not too sure. My gut's telling me York against Forest Green. And I'm going to go York City. I think they've been more consistent out of the bunch of all the playoff teams. And it could be a slog for the sides like your Rochdales and your Oldhams and your Halifax, having to win 2 games to get to Wembley. So I'm not too sure if that'll be a bit of a slog for those teams. I think the teams that are playing less in this playoff fixture, what would you call it, format even, I think they'll progress to the final, York and Forest Green. So yeah, York, and I don't mind York. I've always had a soft spot for York. We've had some great away days. Me, Mum and Dad and Uncle Sean with Rochdale have been to York a few times on wedding anniversaries and all sorts. But I've also been with Jimmy, Brian and Jason. We went to watch Boston United in York. I think it was the FA Vars. So yeah, I've got some fond memories of York. And I hope they do well. If Dale can't win it, I definitely want York to do it. I don't want Oldham to do it. We know that for sure. Halifax are somewhat rivals, almost. Obviously, they're not in the ilk of Bury or Oldham. But I would say they are next on the list, Halifax, in terms of rivals and location, 25 minutes, half an hour away. So I probably don't want to be facing Oldham or Halifax in any of these, but see how we get on. It's a possibility at this point, still. So yeah, York City, I wish them all the best. I think they'll do it. So let's just scroll back up to what have we got here. Sky Bet League 2 playoffs. The first leg, Saturday, 10th of May, Chesterfield and Walsall. Tough one. I'll go for Walsall. I think they will be determined now that Bradford pipped them for automatic in such mental circumstances. Bonkers, really, what Bradford did there in the 96th minute, was it? Something like that, to pip there, to overlap Walsall even. And then obviously you got Sunday, May the 11th, is that right? Wimbledon against Notts County. I think Wimbledon might do this. My gut feeling saying Wimbledon. Second legs, Walsall, Chesterfield, Friday the 16th of May. Second legs, Saturday the 17th of May. Notts County and Wimbledon. So I'm going to go for Wimbledon and Walsall final. And I think Walsall will win at Wembley. That Wembley game will be Monday, 26th of May, the final of the League 2 playoffs. So yeah, I'll go for Walsall on that one. Let's quickly scroll up to Sky Bet League 1 playoffs, semi-finals, first legs. Saturday, May the 10th, Leyton Orient against Stockport, 12:30 kickoff. Sunday the 11th of May, Wycombe Wanderers against Charlton Athletic, 6:30 kickoff. And then you got your second legs, which are Wednesday the 14th of May at Stockport, against Leyton Orient. Thursday the 15th of May, Charlton Athletic against Wycombe Wanderers at both 8 o'clock kickoffs for the second legs. My gut's telling me Leyton Orient. I don't really want Stockport to do it. After they beat us at Wembley in 2008, I've still got gripes about that. A few other gripes with Stockport that I'm not going to go into because I could be here all day even. But Leyton Orient, don't mind Leyton Orient. We've had our battles with them over the past years as well. I think Leyton Orient get to the Wembley final, and where are we? Wycombe and Charlton. I'll go for Charlton Athletic. I think they've been plodding along decently in the league. I'll go for, Leyton Orient and Charlton Athletic final. And I'll go for Leyton Orient to win the final on Sunday, the 25th of May at Wembley Stadium. But yeah, these are just gut feelings at the moment. We always get them wrong, don't we, gut feelings? But yeah, those are my winners. So we got Leyton Orient. Did I say Leyton Orient? Walsall and York City. Okay, I shall now pass you over to Jimmy for his thorough, a bit more in-depth details about his playoff shouts. I think he's going to go from bottom of the pyramid all the way up. And just remember, whether you're in the playoffs or whether you're not, it's only a game. Thank you.
Hello, this is Jimmy from It's Only a Game here, and this is my playoff sort of preview / prediction / bit of everything really. Just to say, starting off, if you're expecting in-depth analysis, well, you've come to the wrong place. Not that we don't do research, not that we don't analyse things on It's Only a Game, but it's part analysis, part research, but mostly gut feeling and good vibes. So I'm going to start all good playoff chats with, naturally, a recap of the 7th tier playoffs that have just occurred in the last few weeks. So in the Southern Premier Division Central, Telford, good old National League name Telford, they won 4-2 at Kettering, so they beat their, obviously, divisional and sort of Midlands rivals away from home 4-2 to get promoted back up into what I think with the National League North. Again, depends on the amount of teams from various geographical regions that qualify for North and South. It's all a great thing that the National League people and the non-league people at the FA have to work out over the summer when all the promotions are done. It's a great day when that's released and people start appealing what divisions they're going to be in regionally for the following season, but I digress. Anyway, the most important thing is that Telford are back into the 6th tier with a 4-2 win at Kettering. They join Bedford Town in the 6th tier, the National League North / South next season. In the Southern Premier Division South, AFC Tottenham of Charlie Austin fame, and who's the other fella there? Is it Scott Rendell? Yeah, Scott Rendell, those who remember. I think he's played for the last 50 odd years now, is there as well. They are up after beating Gloucester City 1-0 down in Southampton, where Tottenham is apparently, so they'll be good up National League South, there's no doubt about that. They join obviously Welsh side Merthyr Town, who dominated that division with 105 goals. Phenomenal work from the South Wales side. Fair play to them. They'll be up in the National League South next season. The 7th division I most closely follow, if you want to say that, is the Northern Prem, because I'm from the North. Can you tell by the accent where Robbie Savage's Macclesfield? Because you've got to call them that now. They're on their way back. They are champions of that division by some distance. 109 points, 109 goals. Ridiculous. Still lost to Marine in the playoff last year, though, didn't they? Anyway, they're going up alongside Worksop Town, who beat Guiseley, former National League side Guiseley, of course, in the playoff at Worksop at the weekend. Worksop winning 2-1 against their Yorkshire rivals. I mean, fair enough, Worksop came second, so therefore stands to reason that they will be the strongest side in the playoffs and go up. And in the Isthmian Premier Division, bit more interesting, Horsham win this one on 87 points from Billericay. But Billericay nowhere to be seen in the playoff final. In fact, 5th place Dover went to 3rd place Dartford and won 2-0. Those you might remember, both Dover and Dartford ex-National League clubs from years ago. Obviously, Dover dropped down 2 divisions in 2 years. Those you might remember had points deductions or nearly wound up as a club. Ended up, obviously, I think they ended up on negative points in the National League a couple of years ago with a threadbare squad, and then dropped down to from the National League South as well. So fair play to Dover Athletic on their way back up, potentially up to the National League at some point, but they are in the National League South and they'll be very much south again next season, you suspect, at that level. So that is the 7th tier wrapped up, you will be glad to know. And in the National League North, very, very briefly, we'll go on to that, where you have got, in, I think it's like 2 weeks' time, it's something mental, we're joining Brackley Town from the North, who Brackley, I think it's their first ever time in the National League next season. They've had a few playoff defeats, home to Boston last year, they lost in the final. I had to look at where Brackley was. I can't be the only person who's had to do that. It's Northamptonshire, apparently. Brackley are up, well done to them. And it's between Scunthorpe and Chester. Scunthorpe, who came second on 90 points, and Chester, who came fourth on 87 points. What a job Ross McIntyre's done as Chester manager. Just, from a personal point of view, from a local perspective, Heart says Chester. Heart wants Chester back in the Football League. I'm sure not many folks in the world would agree with that, of a Tranmere persuasion. But Head very much says Scunthorpe United. I mean, both clubs shouldn't be in the 6th Division, really. Both are big former league clubs. Scunthorpe, in particular, remember them in the Championship beating Newcastle, and I mean, wow. The fact that they've fallen that far down now is down to the horrendous mismanagement of the football club, nearly losing their stadium, nearly losing their club. Chester did lose their club and had to start again, heartbreakingly, and either club back in the National League would be fantastic to see, and either club back in the Football League would be great to see someday. And I am saying back, like with Macclesfield, I know Chester, different club, technically ownership, but for the sake of, and we'll get on to another club later, at the start again, technically I like to say back, because it's the fans and the stadium and the club colours and everything else the same. I'm digressing, I do that a lot. So, yeah, I think Scunthorpe go up from there back into the National League, although, like I say, Heart says Chester. The National League South, if you've not been following that this season, where have you been? It's been ridiculous. Truro have become, I think, the first ever Cornish team to ever make the top 5 divisions of English football, which is massive credit to them, because I think they actually had to play at Torquay's ground at one point. They had their own financial problems a couple of years ago. Good luck to them next season travelling to Carlisle and Gateshead, and vice versa. Good luck to Carlisle and Gateshead going down to Truro. Nailed on Tuesday night games in winter, I'm sure. But just for context, in the National League South, from 1st to 7th, Truro 89 points, Torquay 89 points, 2 goals worse off, Eastbourne Borough 88, Worthing 88, Boreham Wood 86, Dorking 86, and then in 7th you've got Maidstone just sneaking into the playoffs on 79. So stands to reason, of course, that Maidstone are in the playoff final. They travel to Boreham Wood. So, yeah, poor old Torquay on 89, Eastbourne Borough 88, Worthing 88, nowhere to be blinking seen. It's Boreham Wood v Maidstone United for a place back in the National League. I think both clubs went down last season from the National League. Both clubs would be a great addition back into the league. I can't really call this one. I think I'm going to go Boreham Wood finishing some 7 points clear of Maidstone and 2 places higher, but also I saw a message or a tweet from a Tranmere Rovers fan, I can't credit them, I don't remember the name, my apologies, saying that they want Boreham Wood back in the National League because for Carlisle and Morecambe fans, it's a National League rite of passage to show how far you've fallen. Everyone has to encounter Boreham Wood at some point, and I entirely agree. So yeah, I think Boreham Wood will go up alongside Truro to rejoin them in the National League. Now on to the real professional stuff, the stuff I know you're all waiting for. Start with the National League. I mean, it's been a fun league this year. I think credit to Barnet. They've come back after heartbreak in the playoffs last season. Come in, I think, second last season. They've won the league pretty solidly in the end, ahead of York and Forest Green. Obviously, the National League, along with the North and South of the playoffs, where the higher you finish, there is a genuine home advantage, I think, as opposed to the Football League playoffs, which we'll get on to. Yeah, Barnet 102 points, champions, minus 59 goal difference, 97 goals scored. Can't really argue with that. York on 96, though. To not go up on 96 points is quite something. Anyway, but we'll get on to the playoffs themselves, where obviously massive podcast interest in this, because Rochdale, of course, in the quarterfinals, or what are they called? I'm going to call them quarterfinals. 4th place, 7th, 5th place, 6th, and then obviously you get the advantage of being 2nd and 3rd. You get your home game against a team that's come through the quarters. So in this instance, Rochdale face Southend, a club where Southend, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent again here, sorry, but I was put this in the podcast chat the other day. I screenshotted this National League playoff picture plus Barnet and said, has there been a more EFL Football League looking top 7 in the National League finishing places in the years there's been playoffs? I don't think the last 20 odd years, I don't think there has been. Barnet, York, Forest Green, Rochdale, Oldham, Halifax. Yes, I know Halifax went out the Football League in the late 90s, went bust, started again, and have worked their way back up to the National League. But, humour me here. And then Southend, of course, Southend, massive football club. I look there and I think, York, Rochdale, Oldham, Southend, each of those clubs should be walking back in the Football League, really, alongside Barnet. All huge clubs, great fan bases, great Football League histories. No disrespect to Forest Green or Halifax, just my own personal opinion, of course. They are 4 of the biggest clubs in the National League, alongside some others who are absolutely nowhere near the playoffs, admittedly. But on to previewing Rochdale Southend in the first quarter-final. I mean, Heart says Rochdale, obviously, not just because I'm mates with Greg, and obviously we have quite a few Dale fans listening, but I do think as well they've been really, really good coming to the end of the season. I know defeat at Braintree, I don't know how much of a first 11 that was at Braintree on the final day, but I'm going to go Dale to beat Southend. I think Southend have done extremely well to get into the playoffs this year. There is a feeling for me that if Southend, I hope they're on good financial footing now, and I hope they can pack, Roots Hall, not obviously now because they're not playing there, but next season, whatever division they're in. I heard they got 8,000 the other week at Roots Hall, which is phenomenal. You getting 8,000 in the fifth tier is ridiculous, really, isn't it? It's a fantastic crowd, fantastic club. They were so close to losing that football club and had the 10-point deduction last year, and they were just glad to have a club to support. And they're a club that needs to be back in the Football League at some point. I'm sure they will be, but my feeling is it's just a bit too soon after the rebuild, after saving the club, really, for Southend United. I get the feeling that if they don't go up this year, they'll be big hitters next season in the National League, albeit I hope things off the pitch are still good next season for them to make that progression and bounce back up into the Football League, because like so many clubs in the non-league, they're a Football League sized club that's been ran absolutely shambolically. But I think Rochdale will take this one to go into the semi-finals. And then the other one, Oldham Halifax, obviously at Boundary Park. I mean, look, it's Sir Mickey Mellon. It's the National League playoffs. Oldham are going through. There's not a lot to cut these, only 3 points on the table to cut these sides apart. Oldham's vastly superior goal difference. I mean, they've got a 38-year-old Joe Garner scoring from, which I didn't realise. He got the goal against, I can't remember what Ebbsfleet was it, on the final game of the season. I was like, Manaki's still scoring, fair play. But I just think Mickey Mellon knows this league. He's very good. He got out this league as well, lest we forget, with Fleetwood as champions back in about 2012, I think it was. He knows this division, which doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win the playoffs, but I think he'll have enough home advantage in a big night across the Pennines. Oldham and Halifax, they're not far apart, are they? But I do think Oldham will go through ultimately to mean that it goes to kind of league form, that second, third, fourth and fifth contested semi-finals, which then takes me on to semi-finals where Forest Green, Rochdale, look, Heart again says Rochdale, but Head says there's 9 points between them. In the goal difference, to be fair, isn't that different. Both scored 69 goals. Forest Green only conceded 2 less, 42 goals conceded to Dale's 44. You know what? Weirdly, 22 wins for Forest Green, 21 for Rochdale. This should be a lot closer, but Forest Green lost 7 games to Dale's 14. Forest Green are very hard to beat, and if you're going down to the New Lawn, I don't know what their record is down there this year, but I think it's a very hard place to go. The fact they lost 7 games all season, like I say, I don't think many of them have been at home. If you're going down the New Lawn in the playoffs, I think I'm sorry to say, Dale, I think Forest Green take this one. It's just my opinion. And York against Oldham. Look, I'd love to see Mickey Mellon do it. I don't know how much impact Norwood's having there now. James Norwood, that is, not Ollie Norwood, obviously, but I don't think he's played very often after he's had an injury. And I think there's a few ex-Rovers lads from 2018. Manny Monte was there for a time, and a few others anyway. This isn't Tranmere Rovers 2018 I'm covering, it's Oldham Athletic 2025. And I look at York, 96 points. Only 8 defeats all season. They've won 29 out of the 46 games with 95 goals. It's hard to look past them seeing off Oldham at, not Bootham Crescent. It's not that anymore. The new ground, which looks lovely, I would love to go. York's a great city, and the new stadium looks like a fantastic stadium fit for the Football League, which then leads us to a final of, quite predictably, the two teams that are way ahead of the rest of the pack and also have 1 game less to play. York v Forest Green. Look, there was 13 points between York and Forest Green in the league. 13 points. And also a goal difference. York's plus 53. Forest Green plus 27. Forest Green lost less games, though. 17 draws killed that Forest Green's sort of, title tilt, if you will. Hard says York. York are a Football League club in all but name. It's a fantastic city as well, which, does sort of cloud my judgment that I love the city of York. I've never been to Nailsworth, which I think is where Forest Green are based, the small village, but I'm sure it's lovely. Head says Forest Green, then, mainly because I'm still traumatised by 2017. I'm still sure they've got Kane Woolery and Christian Doige playing for them. They don't, though, do they? No, I'm going to back York. I'm going to back York to do it. I think, look, if you finish on 96 points, 13 points clear of a team directly above you, and to be quite honest, you finish somewhat 28 points clear of the team in 7th, you really, really should be getting promoted. So I'm going to go York. I know it's not the most exciting prediction in the world. It's not the most tactical prediction in the world. It is just league table. That's where they are. Sorry, Rochdale fans. Sorry, Oldham fans. Sorry, Sat. Sorry, everyone's got to listen to this, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just a madman rambling about the National League playoffs. However, I do back York to go up into the Football League, and they will be a very welcome addition, with a bit of money behind them, I believe, as well, back into the EFL next season. So moving on to League 2. League 2 has been a saucy minx this season, I must say. It has been something special. At the top end anyway. Walsall, they were HMS pissed the league over New Year in January. I believe, now I'm quoting, or maybe misquoting, not a top 20. I do that a lot when I'm covering the Football League, actually. They were 12 points clear of second place back in January. I know we had them in our mid-season podcast as down to absolutely walk it. Nathan Lowe's goals on loan from Stoke, he was banging them in. Walsall were flying high under Matt Sadler. Nathan Lowe gets recalled by Stoke. And they were 17 points clear of 4th place in January. They then end up finishing in said 4th place, producing an Anti-Sarcevic Bradford goal in the 96th minute, I think, of the last game of the League 2 season. So, well done to Bradford, Port Vale and Doncaster for going up. I didn't realise when I saw Doncaster obliterate Tranmere on Good Friday that I'd be watching the future League 2 champions. They were good. They weren't anything particularly special, but congratulations anyway. And well does Darren Moore's Port Vale, who I tipped to win the league. You didn't win the league, but fair play, you came second. And I like Darren Moore. And I quite like Port Vale's Twitter admin. Have you seen the thing they've done today about MK Dons' badge? Go and see it. It's funny. Anyway, so the playoffs. So Walsall. I mean, Walsall have got a double header now with Chesterfield, who, I'm not going to lie to you, when I saw Chesterfield win the League 2 playoffs, I thought, I didn't realise they were really in the running for it. I knew Salford were in the running, I knew Grimsby were in sort of running, I knew Colchester was sort of in and around it. I didn't realise, quite honestly, because I'd been too busy looking at the promotion bit, and obviously in recent weeks keeping an eye on Carlisle, Morecambe and Accrington for me sins. I didn't actually realise Chesterfield were that high up the league. So when it was confirmed they'd come 7th and got in the playoffs, it was like, oh, how did you get up there? But I must say, Paul Cook's a great manager. He's done a hell of a job. Obviously, last year's runaway National League champions. Could they go back to back? Which is, I think it highlights the very, very fine gap between a very good National League team and a solid League 2 team. The fact that Bromley have come from their first ever Football League season, ever. Michael Cheek's been banging the goals in, fair play to him, and they've come, I think, 11th in League 2. Top half finish, having never been in the Football League before, and come up through the playoffs in the National League. It shows that I'm going to just quickly say, bring in 3 up, 3 down, please, from the National League to League 2. Please do, because the gap is not as great as you think it is, and the gap is smaller between those 2 divisions than I would say it is between probably any of the other divisions above them, if that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, besides the point. So, Chesterfield have got a double header with Walsall. Now, logically, you're looking at it and go, well, Walsall came 4th, and they've got a fantastic team because they have, but they've won 3 of their last 17. Granted, one was a last day win at Crewe, who themselves fell off a cliff at the end of the season because I thought they were up there for a time, and turns out they're not anymore. You know, when you just think, if I'm Matt Sadler, and I can assure you I'm not, and I'll reiterate, 17 points clear of 4th place in January, 12 points clear of 2nd place. And then I've missed out, not only on the title, I've bottled a 12-point gap to the title. I've bottled a 17-point gap to 4th place, where I've now finished. And I finished there because Bradford scored a late goal off Anthony Sarcevic's shin to get them promoted in 3rd place. How do you begin to motivate your players? Do you remember the other year when Northampton won 3-1 at Barrow? Great sentence, by the way. On the final day, and it was like, we're up, brilliant, we've won, nothing's going to stop us. But then Bristol Rovers took them over on goal difference, winning 7-0 at home to Scunthorpe. Northampton then went on to miss out on the playoffs to, I want to say Mansfield. I think Mansfield beat them in the semis. I could be totally wrong. I may have made that up. I think it was the year Port Vale beat Mansfield in the League Two playoff final, and Mansfield knocked Northampton out. And it was a case of they were that deflated. Sure, they went back and came up the following season, did Northampton, and here they are now in League One. But I mean, the motivation to get yourself up for that when you've been so far ahead and then you've had such a downturn in form the last few months, and you've got a Chesterfield side who are buoyant, who have got a chunk of the side that won the National League, Yolly Banks, as you Will Griggs, amongst many others. Dobra, is he still there, Armando Dobra? It shows how much I follow Chesterfield this season, I'm so sorry. You've got a good core of lads who are used to winning games. They're buoyant coming into the playoffs, maybe on the bounce of some good form, against the Walsall side that we're expecting to lift the trophy. Sorry, that's my tea ready. You never, always get the most quality podcasting. Man's oven going off in the background, apologies for that. And yeah, I don't think I can motivate that Walsall team. I honestly don't think I can motivate that Walsall team to see off Chesterfield. So I think Chesterfield beat Walsall over 2 legs. And I think you're going to see a deflated Walsall. I think you're going to see a deflated Walsall side. I think the game at Chesterfield's going to be a party atmosphere. The fans are going to be right up for it. And Walsall aren't going to want this. They were a minute away from going up automatically, and Matt Sadler was very close to getting over the line, scraping over the line at Bradford's expense. And I think Chesterfield do it to get it onto Wembley with a shout of back-to-back promotions. The other one, Notts County, Wimbledon, both solid sides, both sides that have got a lot of talent. I really like good old David McGoldrick still banging them in for Notts County. I like what Johnny Jackson's doing at Wimbledon, and look, they're they go out to win and born out by the league table, but they like to defend first, and they're a very solid, well organised side at Wimbledon. I think that's what ultimately, this one is one I can see going to penalties over 2 legs. It'll be tight, and I just think Wimbledon, it's a gut feeling, might just see off Notts on penalties over 2 legs and scrape through to the final. I don't think the League Two playoffs are going to be as much as League Two's been a fun league this year. It's not been the greatest quality, I don't believe. And I do think these playoffs, if you want quality football, watch Inter v Barcelona as I'm recording tonight. League Two playoffs are not going to be the highest standard, admittedly, but I do think there's going to be a lot of drama, as it is with the playoffs anyway, because it's a great time of year. I think Wimbledon to play Chesterfield in the final, and I do think Wimbledon in what would be a very attritional 1-0 win type playoff final. I think Johnny Jackson takes Wimbledon back up into the League One at Paul Cook and Chesterfield's expense. So I am tipping Wimbledon to join Bradford, Port Vale and Doncaster Rovers in League One next season, which is where we then move ourselves to. Now, League One, I have to say, is probably the tightest of the playoffs. In terms of, Leyton Orient are coming into it, I think 6 runs on the bounce, battered a very, very poor Huddersfield side on the final day. You've got Wickham, who, Jesus Christ, they were battling Wrexham for promotion. They were, under Matt Bloomfield, they were looking like they were going the league. Then Birmingham did what Birmingham have done with their £20 million budget and just literally HMS pissed the league. They've gone and absolutely blitzed it with 111 points. Ridiculous points tally, regardless of what they're spending on players. That's a brilliant season. Obviously, Wrexham, credit to them. They've defied my predictions of mid-table by going up once again. Fair play to them. Can't say any more than that. But, yeah, Wickham, they really should have been at least in the top 2 playoff places, 3rd and 4th, given how good they've been at times this season. But Michael Dodds, the ex-Sunderland coaches, I don't know, there's something just not right there. They've really dipped these last few weeks, and they've obviously had tough fixtures against the other playoff sides, as luck would have it, in the last 3 fixtures, and they've lost all of them against Stockport, Leyton Orient and Charlton, which brings us on to obviously Charlton. Nathan Jones, make what you will of his time at Southampton, make what you will of him at Luton. He's done a bloody good job turning that Charlton side around. Charlton are one of the few clubs I would say are a championship size club. Try saying that with all my teeth in, as in a bit too big for League One, but probably not big enough to be a consistent Premier League side. Charlton are a big club of a level. They've had some poor years in League One. And Stockport, Dave Challoner. I know Stockport got better money behind them, but Dave Challoner, I'm not going to read you his playoff record or his league finish record, mainly because I've not got it in front of me. But I think if you manipulate it enough, when they've finished the season, i.e. not been sacked or COVID, he's been at least in a playoff place with the likes of Fylde in the Northern Prem up to the National League, where he got Fylde close to the Football League, and look where they are now, back in the National League North. Then obviously with Hartlepool, got them up through the playoffs after being sacked at Fylde. We should caveat that. And obviously the Hartlepool campaign, I think, where the National League season finished early because of COVID. But then Stockport, his Stockport job has been ridiculous. Getting them, National League champions, then losing the playoff final to Carlisle in League Two, and then League Two champions, and then here they are. So ultimately, Dave Challoner's record of getting Stockport or getting teams into playoffs has been great. What's his record been like winning playoffs? Now, I believe some of the playoffs he's won have been the Northern Premier League. I think with Colwyn Bay and Fylde. Definitely with Fylde. How relevant that bears out some years later in the third division, I'm not sure. The only real playoff sample size we've got to go off in the Football League is obviously Stockport losing to Carlisle a couple of years ago on penalties where, it was tight, but if you'd have followed that season in League Two, you'd have known that Stockport should have been streets ahead of Carlisle that year. They weren't in terms of the game, and obviously Paul Simpson led Carlisle to promotion ultimately. So, something wasn't quite right that day. I think looking at it, Leyton Orient are coming in on this in incredible form. They're bouncing into it with Richie Wellens as manager and a couple of Spurs loanees who have been phenomenal, and Charlie Kelman, I believe, is a League One top scorer. I can just see this going to penalties at Edgeley Park. Obviously, it's two legs. You've got to go down to Brisbane Road. Is it still called Brisbane Road? Leyton Orient's ground? It is now. I can see it being level, whether that means 2 draws, whether it means even Christ. I can see 2 away wins. I can see both sides winning like 1-0 away from home, or 2-1 away from home or something, or it being level with 2 away wins. And on the night, Leyton Orient just sneaking out penalties, because they're such a buoyant side at the moment, and there's always that one team that, I know I said with Chesterfield, they've come bouncing in to knock out Walsall, but I think that's more to do with Walsall's problems. I think Stockport, there's nothing wrong with what Stockport are doing. Stockport have come third. They beat Wickham on the final game of the season to do that. There's nothing wrong with Stockport are and what they're doing. I just think Leyton Orient, I just got a gut feeling Leyton Orient see them off on penalties. It's going to be incredibly tight. There's something that tells me that Leyton Orient are making it to Wembley. Again, those who will remember, Leyton Orient made the playoff final in League One. That was the day Steve Evans ran down the touchline, when, if you can want to call it running, when Rotherham beat them 3-2. And I think about 2012, 2013, for those who may not remember then, Leyton Orient nosedived into the National League, 2 divisions below, with some awful ownership, and have since bounced back with obviously the late Justin Edinburgh, who would be incredibly proud to see what Richie Wellens is doing now as Leyton Orient manager, getting them up as League Two champions a couple of years ago, and now where they are in League One, which is phenomenal. And by the way, a little shout out to a club that's not even in the playoffs this year, Reading, who came 7th in League One. They have been bought out, I believe, by Rob Couig, former Wickham owner, who's going to put them on sound footing. It's been a long time protracted. That club has had an existential crisis under the former owner now, that I will not mention the name of because it's disgusting what he did to Reading Football Club, the former owner. I just hope Reading Football Club can find themselves on solid financial foundings and can make a good stab at League One again next season. For them to have come 7th in League One and nearly made the playoffs, being with a shout of it on the final day, is a remarkable achievement for everyone at Reading Football Club that's worked damn hard to keep that club afloat and not get it kicked out the league. Because we all know what happened with Bury, we all know what nearly happened with Bolton, we all know what's happened with the likes of Macclesfield in the past, and other clubs as well. Like I say, I've alluded to Chester and clubs like Hereford and so many clubs where it's happened to, where it's just tragic, and we don't want to see any of the clubs go that way. So shout out to Reading in League One for that, even though they're missing out on the playoffs. But yeah, anyway, Leyton Orient for the final, and look, Wickham are in dire form, and Nathan Jones is Charlton, they're having a good time of things. I don't think it's any shock to say that Charlton will probably see off Wickham. And I'm going to go Charlton Orient. I'm going to go Charlton to win the playoffs. I just think it's big club bias, unfortunately. I'll openly admit it. I just think Nathan Jones on the day will have those Charlton lads absolutely on it at Wembley. 2 London clubs at Wembley. It's going to be a hell of an atmosphere if it indeed works out that way. Cue Stockport Wycombe playoff final. But yeah, Charlton for me. Charlton for me to go up. And tune back in shortly after I've had my tea. I will go more into depth with the Championship playoffs. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.